Hello, Richard here. Welcome to part 3 of the series on restoring this old school bench, school woodworking bench. And today I'm going to make a start on cleaning it up. But before we do that, I'd just like to say thanks to everybody that commented on the previous video to help me ascertain that these top slabs are indeed beech. Now, a few people have said, why not just make new slabs for it? Well, as usual, I'm just being stingy. I'm trying to save a few quid, and I paid £95 for the bench, and I'd like to keep it as close to that as I can without spending a fortune on it. Now, I don't know how expensive wood is in your part of the world, but here in the UK, it's pretty expensive. And to replace the top slabs on here, having a quick look online, I was looking at about £60 to £70 UK each for these. So you're looking at maybe £140 worth. What's that? Probably $170 worth of wood just for the top. So if I can recover it, then so much the better. Now, I will say as well that the restoration of this is going to be done with hand tools. I'm a big convert over to hand woodworking tools. Thanks to Paul Sellers for that. He's certainly got a convert on his hands there. So that's going to be good fun. We're going to get all these old school woodworking tools out. It'll all be done by hand. Don't intend to use any electricity to do this. This will all be powered purely by tea. So if you're into old hand tools, then hopefully you'll find this interesting. The first job I'm going to do is take the apron off. And there's about a gazillion screws in there. Some are holes, some are screws. Who knows? Let's find out, see if we can actually get the things loosened off at all. Hopefully they're not too tight. That's already split there, so that's not so great. Thing's sagging under its own weight. So we'll need to repair that a bit. Oops. Another one of those world's longest screws in there. So let's move to this side. See what we got. Looks like one screw holding this on. And that's split again there. Well, that one really doesn't want to come out. That's really in there. Let me take this side off and give it a bit of a wiggle. There we go. Bit of finesse, that's all that took. They didn't want that to come off, did they? I think that was long enough. So let's see if we can persuade this off. There's actually a bit of a sort of a lap joint in there that's going to stop this rotating too much. Yeah, that screw is right in there. Okay, before I muller the head up too much on that, I have a cunning plan. I'll be back. All right, so the cunning plan is this and this. Yes, this is a impact driver, and yeah, that's my quick flip bit for my cordless drill, because I've lost I've lost the driver bit from this, and none of the bits I have fit. But this does fit, so bit unconventional for woodwork, I suppose, but let's see if this will get that screw loose. So the thing with an impact driver is to kind of force it in as hard as you can in that way, and then keep pressure on it in the direction you want it to come undone, and then give it a good old whack. So all right, that's coming out. So I'm just going to pop the screw back in the other end, just to take the weight off. That's just to support it so it doesn't go all wonky on us. And yeah, that's coming now. Okay, well, that's the first apron off. These screws are insane. Look at the size of the things. Yeah. Okay, well, they're off. Got a bit of a split here, which I'll probably repair that. I'll probably just like take it off and glue it back on again, to be honest. As I say, I'm not looking to sort of just replace all the wood here. Looks like this might be some sort of pine. Certainly doesn't have a grain like beech, so it's a fairly cheap old bit of wood anyway. But we'll see if we can repair it, salvage that. Okay, right, well, let's see if we can take the rear apron off. Right, so let's see if this one's any easier. Oh, that's much easier. That's probably a bad thing. That screw's hardly in there at all. And this one is the same. So easy to take apart, not so good if you want the bench to stay in one piece. And it looks like we've got a bit of a sheared off screw head in there. So I have to watch that when we're cleaning it up. Okay, and this screw, hardly held in there at all. That seems to be stuck on something there. The inner panel is actually screwed onto this, so we'll have to take a few screws out of that in a moment. Take that out. Right, so that's the rear apron off as well. And again, just looks like pine. Don't know how well you can see that there. The grain is certainly not beech. So it's just pine boards for that. This is in better nick, actually. The rear one hasn't been quite so abused. So I need to clean that up. Now, I got a slight change of plan of what I was going to do. I intended to clean up the aprons and clean up the outside and work from there. What I think I'm going to do is leave these for the moment, because to fix these up, I could do with a bench to put them on. So you see, what I could do with doing is, I think, cleaning this up, then I can cut a couple of risers for here out of the 5x5s I've got, get it all drilled, I can bolt the top back on, and then I can actually use it as a bench to finish it off with. So I think that's the plan. I think that's what we'll do. So let's get cleaning. Okay, well, I've got the bench on its side now, so we can start cleaning up this face here. There's a couple of screws poking through this side where they've screwed a shelf rail from the inside and the screw's gone through. So we'll take them out, and then I'll refix the shelf rail just by screwing it from the outside. But before that, I'll scrape off the paint and stuff. Like I said, I'm not looking for perfection here, just clean. A couple of lag bolts here, and we've got some panel pins in here. I'll need to take them out, and I will run the metal detector over it as well before I do anything too serious, certainly before I get a plane on it. But let's take these out and see how that looks. Right, I'll just undo these lag bolts and hope that the whole thing doesn't fall apart on me. Just take these out while we clean it up, really. Well, that's actually a machine screw, so there must be a bolt in there somewhere. Oh, okay, yeah, it looks like there's a captive nut. Or maybe there was once. I don't think it's actually fixed into anything at the moment. Let's have a look at the other one. They're suspiciously loose. Yeah, I don't know. Looks like there might have been something it's bolted into, but we'll check that out when we put them back. All right, we'll give it a bit of a scan over with a little metal detector, just see if we've got any pins in the side, which I suspect we may have. So we'll give it a little sweep over, see if we can detect anything here. Maybe when taken out. Oh, there's a pin there, I can see it actually. We'll take that in a minute. That's all fairly clean actually. There's not picking up anything there. Oh, there's one there, another little pin there. And that leg's pretty clear other than that. Okay, so let's see if we can take them out. That's in there, that doesn't want to come out. Okay, so I can't remove that without just really traumatizing the wood even further. So let's see if we can just knock it below the surface a bit. Not the prettiest job in the world, but that'll be all right. It won't damage my plane, and a little bit of filler. You're right as rain. Okay, that looked like it might just be a bit of dirt on the surface. Whatever that was seems to have gone now. All right, let's give it a little bit of a scrape, see where we end up. Okay, I've just refitted the bolts here just to hold this together. The trouble is with the bolts out, any pressure on the front would cause it to start to move. So to pop these back in, so I can plane the front of it a bit more easily. Things like this I'm not too worried about. That's just character really. So I'm not going to fill anything like that. That's just history there. All right, well, this side's mostly done. It's done to the standard I want it done. I just want a working bench at the end of the day. The card scraper did a reasonable job of getting rid of the paint, and the plane has cleaned up the tops after having card scraped all the varnish off of those and metal detected to make sure there's no horrible nasty screws, what would mess up my plane iron. So last thing I'm going to do is just get some 80 grit, I think it's 80 grit sandpaper, yeah, 80 grit sandpaper. Just give it a little go over, just take any kind of rough edges off and remove a bit more of that paint. Okay, so pretty much the same for the front. So let's give that a bit of a check over with the old metal detector, make sure there's no nails in there, give it a scrape and a bit of a plane and a sand, and hopefully that'll be that sorted. Right, well, that's the front and the sides all cleaned up, tidied up. As much as I'm going to tidy them up, I'm quite happy to go with a bit of a rustic look to this thing. Probably give it a coat of Danish oil when it's all done, and no one will be any the wiser. Next job is going to be to cut up some of this 5x5 so I can make a couple of battens or risers to go on each end, which will raise the bench up. And as I said, it's all going to be done in hand tools, so better go and get myself a saw and an extra sugary, milky cup of tea. All right, well, I just got the square on this, and the end is not very square at all, which is a bit of a pain, and it looks like it's been chewed by rats or something on the bottom there. So it's not very nice. So what it means is I'm going to have to basically take the end off it. So what I'll do, I'll mark it up and saw the end off, probably about here, where the wood looks quite reasonable. And then I'll cut it again and again. So that's 3 cuts I've got to make, which is a bit of a pain because I'm doing it by hand, but then serves me right, eh? Okay, the edges aren't exactly sort of very nice on this. It's going to be hard to get anything square on that. So I'm just going to run a plane over it quickly just to knock off some of the high spots. All right, let's try that again, see if we can get any closer now. Pick a side. Doesn't seem too bad. Okay, something I'm going to do. This is treated timber. So before I go too far with this, I'm actually going to put a dust mask on because I don't really want to be breathing in any of the chemicals from the dust this makes. Back in the old days, tannalised timber was treated with all kinds of horrible things like arsenic and stuff like that. I think it's a bit better these days, but even so, I still don't want to be breathing it in. So let me get a mask on. Right, that's a bit better. That was that's the before. And that's the after. So that should be a bit squarer now. Bear in mind, this is going to be at the front and the apron's going to be bolted into this or screwed into this. So that wants to be quite a nice surface, but that'll do. That's not too bad. Next thing to do is measure how long we want this and make another cut. Probably need more tea. Right, I've got both the risers cut to length now. What I need to do as well is just make sure that they're square and flat. I know that on some of these there's a little bit of a twist in places. If I'm putting them on the sides, I don't want any twists because that's going to sort of all go wrong when everything's clamped. So it's going to take a little bit of time to take the twist out of these, square them up a little bit, and then we can think of a cunning plan as to how to bolt it all together. So we'll do one of these and then the other one I'll do later. I'm just going to check it for square. And it's actually pretty square, according to this. It's not far out. I don't need it perfect on this, but it's maybe slightly out. But it's pretty good, actually, for squareness. But I do know we've got a bit of a twist going on, so I'll get the winding sticks on it. And then I'll bring you in and show you just how far out that is. Right, I hope you can see that okay. If you look at it, you should be able to see that this edge here is just slightly higher. So it means that there's a twist going on and this edge here needs to come down a bit. So we'll take a little bit off that, we'll flatten this off, take the twist out, and then we'll go from there and square the rest of it up. It doesn't matter really which face I start on because they're all pretty square. So we'll give that a go. All right, so we're a little bit high over this end here. So we'll take a bit off. I'll give it a go with the old scrub plane on that. So let's, not taking anything there. Going against the grain a bit there, so I'll flip it round. We'll try it from this edge. That's better. That's almost there with that. Just a little bit higher this end. Just going to swap to the jack plane for that. Eyeballing it, it looks pretty good actually, so I'm going to call that one flats and then we'll work from there. So we'll just get the square on that and see how it looks on the other faces now. And that's quite a way off there, but it's quite square down this end. So that's sort of saying to me that this part here is also high. So let's get that on the bench. So yeah, it's high on this far end. Let me just double check my squareness on that. Make sure I'm sort of taking wood off the right end. So that's square. That isn't. So again, we need to bring something off of this end. So let's see if we can take a little bit off here, see which way the grain's going. There's a bit of a knot there, which might be fun. Yeah, it doesn't like that. Let's try that way round. Check the squareness. Well, it's pretty square. Maybe it's gone a little bit too far even. Let's try the winding sticks and see how they look. They're pretty good actually. So I'll call that one done. Go and give it a quick go over with the jack plane. should have that edge nice and square with no twist. It's not far off. That's pretty good. So I'll just make a couple of marks on that as well. So I'll call that my square edge. Let's have a look at this one now. So yeah, that's what that's miles out of that end, and square that end. So I think we've got the same thing. I think we've just got a general sort of twist through the wood. This is the high end. So let's work out which way the grain goes there. So hopefully you can see that. It's maybe a little bit high still over on this side. Maybe take a little bit off. I'll probably do that with the jack plane, just sort of flatten that edge down a little bit. I think that'll get us close enough. It's all nice and square, all looks nice and straight. So that should just leave us this last face, which I'm guessing is going to be high here again. That seems to be the pattern of things. And yes, it is. It's quite high. It was very high, actually. But square down this end. So again, just really need to take out this area here. And we should be good. So, do that. Okay, that one's looking pretty good now. So I'll just do the same with the other one, and then we'll go from there. Right, so that's both the risers done. They're both sort of milled flat and square-ish, square enough. So we're ready now to work out how we're going to actually get this all bolted together. Now, what I intend to do is, give me a moment. I've got these extra long coach bolts. And the idea is that these will actually go between the slabs and the base, and then I can just bolt all the way through and clamp it together. So what I need to do now is work out how I'm going to go about actually drilling the holes accurately. In having flipped the slabs over, so in other words, the one on that side is now flipped over to the front here, it's possible the holes will still line up. So I do have the option of using the original holes and just drilling holes through here to suit. But that's going to be quite tricky to get it all lined up. Also, the problem is that these obviously need to be counterbored below the surface. And if I've got an existing hole, it's hard to counterbore an existing hole because there's nothing to guide the counterbore with. There's nothing to guide the drill with. So it might be easier to actually just drill completely new holes through the whole lot. That's what I need to think about next. So we'll come up with a plan for that and go from there. Now, the cunning plan is as follows. This slab here has been flipped over to here, and this one's been flipped over to here. Now, the reason I've done it that way is because there's an overhang. And if I flipped them 180 this way, then the overhang would end up at the opposite end to where I'm going to work. I'm going to work at this end. And let me just show you the other end and show you what the problem is. So as you can see here, someone sawed the edge of this off, and they've cut it a little bit short. And it's short on both sides. I don't really want that shortness to be at the other end, if you see what I mean. I'm not going to be down this end working because I'm right-handed. I'm going to be down the other end over there. So this is one of the reasons I sort of flipped them from front to back rather than just putting them in place and flipping them upside down, effectively. The good news is, though, as you can see, the bolt holes line up all the way through. Two there, and obviously two here and two here. So that's good news. Those holes line up, and I'd rather not drill more holes than I need. I'd rather just stick with the holes that are there. And in terms of getting these fitted on, what I'll probably do, we'll take the tops back off, put these in place on the sides, and then I'll mark up from underneath, or pencil, something or other, through the holes onto the bottom of these, and then I'll drill holes through these with a brace. Now, I'd rather be able to actually drill through the top through this so that the drill's guided and goes through square, but I can't do that because I've got no way of knowing where everything lines up. Everything has to sort of reference this bit, and I can't drill up from the bottom of this because I couldn't get a drill in there. So my concern is that by marking this and then drilling it, if I go slightly wonky, then these holes won't line up. But the master stroke is that the holes in here don't really need to be very small at all. In fact, they could be huge, great big holes that round because the holes aren't actually going to do anything. When this is all together, it's going to be screwed together and clamped. And what holds it together is the friction between all the parts and not the actual holes. The holes don't really do any holding. They just allow the screws through. So if I drill the holes through these a lot bigger than they need to be, then if I get them slightly wonky or not quite lined up, doesn't matter because then there's plenty of wiggle room. So that's probably what I'll do. I'll mark these up on the ends from underneath and then drill through bigger hole than I need, and then ideally this will all bolt back together and we should be nearing a functional bench again. What I've done to help me in drilling this is to create a temporary bench. So what I've done, taken a couple of clamps and I've just clamped this slab onto here, and then we'll be able to drill out these holes here that we previously marked in pencil. Now to drill the holes, I'm going to be using a brace and bit, and if I bring you in and have a look at this, last weekend I was lucky enough to pick up this set of augers for £3 at the local car boot sale, which was quite a result. Now it's quite nice actually, because the lady that was selling them told me that they belonged to her late husband who was a carpenter, and she was sort of really pleased that they'd be going to a good home. So what's great with this is that I've got this guy's tools, which he obviously cared for. They're in good nick. I must admit, I have derusted them apart from this one, which wouldn't fit in my derusting tub. But they're all nice and sharp. It's really nice to be able to take these tools that were obviously very well cared for and kind of let them live on, and to be able to share them with all of you. So good result there. But anyway, I'm going to be using these to bore the holes. So I'll select a suitable size and then we'll get drilling. So I'm going to use a 7/8 bit for this. I'll show you the size of the screws. So that's the size of the screws, coach bolts. So as you can see, there's plenty of wiggle room in there on these risers. And what I'll do, I'm just going to start the holes off vertically, and then I'll probably flip it over and drill them horizontally so I can get a little bit more kind of weight behind it then. And basically keep drilling until I just come out the back. You'll be able to feel it get a little bit easier when it does. Then what I'll do is back the tool out, and I'll finish boring it from the other side. Right, so that's one hole done, and 2 of these, 4 holes, 1 done, 7 more to do. Well, I've got to say, that was quite a workout, which is one of the reasons I like hand woodworking, to be honest, because it gives me a workout. I sit at a desk most of the week, so this is a really good way of getting out of breath. Anyway, that's all 8 holes drilled in the risers, so now I'm going to get the risers underneath the slabs, see if the holes all line up. Then the next thing to do is to counterbore the holes in the top, because the counterbores are now underneath because we flipped it all over. Counterbore the tops so the coach bolts can sit below the surface, and then we can probably bolt the bench together and actually have a bolted up bench for the first time. Well, the good news is everything lines up, and this is the height that it's going to pretty much end up at, which is not too bad, actually. I reckon I could work there. My plan was to have it about 3 inches higher, but that's pretty good. And to save the hassle of building sled feet for it and putting it on a riser, that will do. In the future, if I find it's a little bit low, I can always jack it up a bit, but that's looking pretty good. So next thing to do is to counterbore these, get these coach bolts sat below the surface, and then we can get some nuts on it, tighten it up. I'm going to be counterboring these holes to 1 inch. So I've got a 1 inch bit here. And because there's no center in the hole, the snail has nothing to guide in. So to make sure I can keep this in position, I've put up a little jig there, which I've already bored through with this. and that will hold things steady while I bore it. And also I've got a bit of tape on here. Gives me an idea of how deep I want to go, so that will keep me at the right sort of depth. Okay, let's give it a go. I think we'll go a little bit deeper than that. Probably don't need the guide anymore now it's got started, so I'll take a little bit more off just to get a little bit more depth on that. That looks good. By the time the coach bolt pulls down, you've got the square sort of captive bit here, the square bit for want of a better name. By the time that pulls down into the hole, that'll go a little bit deeper. So I reckon that's going to be okay. Right, well, same again for all the others. Right, well, it's all counterbored and all the bolts are in and they're all tightened up. And I've got to say, it's pretty sturdy. Now, in the UK, there's an unwritten law that says if you're a bloke and you secure something, for example, you secure like a motorcycle on the back of a trailer, or you secure a tent by putting tent pegs into something, or if you bolt your bench together so it's really solid, the unwritten law states that you have to say out loud, now that's going nowhere. Now that's going nowhere. I've got to say, that's absolutely rock solid now. There's still the aprons to go on, and it can probably be tightened up a little bit more, but I mean, that's really, really quite solid now. Now, there's still quite a lot to do. I've got to plug up all the holes in the top, so the old vice holes, and the slots where the tool well board went. The tool well, go and grab that. This is, I don't know if you remember, but this is absolutely shot. Absolutely useless now. So I've got a builder's merchant down the road, so I'll probably go and buy a couple of redwood planks or something and joint them up and use them for this. So this can just be firewood. I think part of the problem with this is that once upon a time, someone's done an engine rebuild on this old woodwork bench. Over this side, I don't know if you can still see it, but if you look at rewinding the video, you'll be able to see it. There's like a stain down this side, and this side of the bench smells a little bit of manky old oil. Not that I mind the smell of oil, you know, it's I don't mind working on engines and things like that. But on a woodwork bench, it's a bit of a nightmare. And I think this has taken the brunt of that. I think this is very, you can see it's, yeah, it smells of old, horrible, manky old oil. So that's shot anyway. So this will get replaced. When you sort out the aprons, this is a challenge, to be honest. This is so horrible that it's a bit of a sort of personal challenge to see if we can actually make this look half decent again. So temptation is just to scrap it and buy a new piece. But I don't like spending money if I don't have to. You know, if I can restore something, I will. So that needs to be done. The vices need to be cleaned up, and I need to refit the vices on the underneath of here because we flipped boards over. This needs to be planed flat, so plenty to do. But for now, I think we'll call it a day, and then we'll carry on with all of that in the next one.